Awesome. We are live. So this week we are Group 9, and we're going to talk about what a pledge is. So Taylor, do you want to start off today?
Sure. All right. So my example was John recently went to the Himalayas to climb Mount Everest. This was a super expensive trip, and John took out a loan from the bank of Dad. They agreed that when he returned that he would repay the debt. He gave the bank of Dad all of his stock in Apple as collateral. John went to climb Mount Everest and successfully summited the mountain and returned home. John did not repay the bank of Dad after he returned home. The bank of Dad then sold the stocks to make up for the failure of the debtor to repay. What is this an example of? A security interest, a pledge, a collateral exchange, or a secured transaction? And the answer is pledge.
Good. That was good, Taylor. You're
Thanks.
really good at summarizing things. I really like that. So, sweet. Um, I'll do my example next. All right. So mine. Okay, so I don't know why, but I kept thinking about different movies last night. So I want to see if you can get my reference here. It's kind of funny. Um, Jack, a recently graduate of BYU, is in search of a job as a graphic designer. He gets a job offer in New York City as a graphic designer at an advertising company. He doesn't have much money, and the rent for his tiny one-bedroom apartment is $1,200 per month. Jack is worried when he finds out that his first paycheck will not be given to him until the first day of the next month. Rose, Jack's coworker, agreed to loan Jack the $1,200 on the condition that he gives her something in return until the debt is paid. Jack hesitantly hands over his deceased grandfather's ring, the sapphire of the sky, to Rose. Would the agreement between Jack and Rose be considered a pledge? And the answer was yes, because oh wait, sorry, I looked at the wrong one. It's D, yes, because Jack has given Rose temporary possession of the ring until he pays the debt. That was mine. All right, so David, do you want to share yours and then maybe come up with a question?
Okay. Um, so my example says Daniel is an online student and therefore relies on his laptop extensively to get his work done. Unfortunately, one day Daniel tries to turn it on to do some homework and it no longer works. He does everything he can think of, but nothing helps, and he resigns himself to the fact that he'll need a new laptop. Unfortunately, as a full-time student, he doesn't have the funds to go buy what he needs until he receives his financial aid. Daniel knows his friend Heather is in a position to offer some assistance and asks her for a loan. Heather wants to help her friend but is worried about getting paid back. She and Daniel agree that she will take possession of his Xbox and games until the loan is repaid. And then, yeah, like I was saying before, I kind of struggled with answering or coming up with a question based on that. I mean, and really, it would probably just be something very similar to what you and Taylor already have. Um, yeah, I don't know. Something about like, what is this considered? You know, or I don't know. I just had a hard time with that this week.
I thought it was pretty good. You were definitely on the right track for plowing through that one. So
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
thought
feel
you.
my example explained it fairly well. I just like could not think of a question based off of it.
Hmm.
Cool. So, do we want to talk about what a pledge is first for whoever's watching this?
Sure.
All right, so we all know how I do additional research for this class. I go to my friend Google, and I found a good website. I think it was the legal dictionary. I can't remember, but I just Googled pledge, and a definition that it came up with, which is kind of like what all of our examples were talking about, says a pledge is when you deposit personal property as a security for the personal loan of money. If the loan is not repaid when due, the personal property pledged shall be forfeited to the lender. The property is known as collateral. To pledge is the same as to pawn. So there's a similar definition in the textbook, but I thought that was a pretty good simple definition on what a pledge is. And I think that a lot of us we know what a pledge is because it's kind of it's an old, I guess in the book it says it's an old technique for repaying a loan or lending out a loan. So, yep. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
No, I guess it's pretty straightforward, I think. Like the text says that it's the oldest and simplest, and really I just it was so straightforward, I think, which is why I was kind of having a problem coming up with the question. It just seems so basic. I was probably just overthinking it.
So I have a question. I did not understand. I mean, it's probably going along with what David's saying, that it's so simple that I'm just not understanding it. But the last sentence in the last paragraph of pledge, it says, in fact, the pledge contradicts the underlying purpose of many credit transactions. That is to help the debtor acquire and use property, not merely buy property on credit and then pledge away its possession. What does that mean? I didn't get that.
I could tell you my interpretation, but I don't know how correct it would be.
That's okay.
So think of it like a credit card, for example. Like they have, a regular credit card allows you to charge X amount that you don't necessarily have. But they also have those like secured credit cards, like for people that have like poor credit histories and things like that, where essentially you prepay for it and it deducts it from there. So you have that collateral hanging out there. And so the point of credit is, like you don't technically have possession of something.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
I don't
Thank
know if
you.
that's right, but that's how I interpret it.
Well, that helps me understand what it's saying more. So, thanks for that. It was good.
Yeah, David, you answered a question that I had that same question as well, but that makes sense because we don't always have possession of the collateral. So that's good. And it talks more about that in the secure transaction video that Sister Hurley posted, like who has the rights to the collateral. So pretty good. Christina, were you going to say something?
Oh no, you guys answered my questions already. Thank you.
Oh, okay. That sounds good. Just trying to think. Do we? So I guess really, should we go with my example or Taylor's example this time?
Whose example did we choose last week? Was it Taylor's? Was it yours?
I think we chose David's last time.
Yeah, it was mine last week.
I mean, mine's okay. I like it. I always kind of, mine's always a lot longer than Taylor's because I'm not very good at summarizing. But
I don't know. Your Titanic reference is pretty great, Taylor's Bank of Dad thing is pretty hilarious. So they're both really awesome. I don't think we can go wrong with either one.
It was either going to be Titanic or it was going to be Star Wars 7. I was thinking of saying like Kylo Ren and Rey or something, but I decided not to. Maybe next week.
Go for it.
So, I don't know. I really don't have a preference. Maybe we should have a coin. We should like flip a coin on here or something.
Yeah.
Well, maybe since you guys were better than me and came up with questions, maybe we could look and see what question we like better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Taylor's example says like, what is this an example of? So he talks about like, is it a security interest? Is it a pledge? Is it a collateral exchange? Whatever that is, or a secured transaction.
I made up a collateral exchange. I couldn't think of a fourth one.
I thought so. Taylor's is pretty good because those concepts are all really close together in the book. So for someone to know the answer to this question, they're going to have to know what the all those concepts are. So I think just cut out for a sec. Did you hear everything I just said?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay. My like computer like went dark for a second and then it was weird. Anyway, so that's Taylor's question. And then my question is, would the agreement between Jack and Rose be considered a pledge? And so kind of where I was coming from was I looked at what a pledge was, but like whoever answers this question, they're going to have to like dig deep into it to find like all the stipulations on what defines a pledge. So So yeah,
My evil twin showed up again.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, now it's gone. We're all good, guys.
You should get your computer looked at.
Yeah. Heck.
Is your
Well,
virus soft?
Huh?
Do you need new virus software?
Well, it's a MacBook Air. I got it like six months ago, so it's newer. And plus, I'm in a different place, so I think the internet is a little slow here. We're a little off. I don't know.
Is it an Apple product?
Mhm.
Well, didn't they just like have like a big recall or something? What was that article I read on Facebook? It was something about Apple products. Can't remember. So,
Oh.
all right. I think we could go with Taylor's. I like Taylor's. Plus, it would be kind of prideful to pick your own.
I don't know. They're both so good. We honestly can't go wrong with either one. It almost is a coin flip for me.
Yeah.
It is, so you guys pick.
I kind of like how so like with collateral, there's tangible collateral and then there's not tangible collateral. So I think it's kind of cool how I kind of went with the whole like tangible collateral approach, and Taylor went with the intangible because stock is intangible. It's pretty cool.
I chose intangible because before I read this, I didn't know you could do that. So I was like, that's cool. So that's why I chose that. Because I never thought about stocks or anything else that's tangible that you own.
Well, I chose tangible because obviously the necklace in Titanic gets thrown over the side of the boat. There really was no logic to my answer. So, yeah. All right, so we'll go with Taylor's this week. And if I have a really good one next week, maybe we'll pick mine. Unless Christina wows us all with her already written example.
I know, way ahead of the game.
All right, so cool. And I
Who's doing the
guess
write-up this week?
I'm doing the write-up.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So I'm gonna do the write-up this week, and I'm trying to think. Christina did it last week.
Mhm.
Who did it before Christina?
I think I'm up for next week.
Okay, so you'll do it next week, and then it'll go Taylor, and then Christina. Okay.
Yep.
Sweet. So, I mean, we basically have most of our write-up just right here because Taylor did the question. Well, he did the scenario, the question, the answers, and then the feedback. I guess the only thing that's really left for this part of the meeting is to talk about how Taylor's example, well, I guess it's our example, illustrates the concept. So I guess we could talk about that for a couple minutes.
Okay, well, I think it explains the concept because John needed money, so he got a loan type thing, and then in exchange, he gave stock, which is the collateral, and he didn't meet his end of the bargain, so the stock got sold to fulfill the debt, which is what a pledge is.
So, but when we're explaining like why each answer is wrong or right, could we say that with the pledge it involves an exchange? Because I think that's the only thing that involves an exchange of some sort.
Yeah, but Taylor already did the answer feedback, so we don't need to come up with why they're correct and not
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's good. So I guess on that, the internet search that I did, I'm trying to find where it is. Hold on. So there's like oh, right here. So we kind of already have talked about this, but it says in a pledge, one person temporarily gives possession of property to another party. They are typically used in securing loans, pawning property for cash, and guaranteeing the contracted work will be done. This is the important part. Every pledge has three parts: two separate parties, a debtor obligation, and a contract of pledge. So we have our two parties. We have John and we have Bank of Dad. And John is is he the pledger? Is that what it's called? The pledger, the one that's pledging his stock? Or is he the pledgee? That's kind of what we need to address.
Or do they call him the debtor or creditor?
I'll look in the book real quick.
Because the book refers him to a debtor and a creditor. I don't know if I read about a pledger.
Just looking. Yeah, in the back of the book it says a pledgee is a person to whom personal property is pledged by a pledger, and a pledger is one who transfers possession of property as a security for a debt. So
John would be the pledger. Bank of Dad would be the pledgee.
Yep. And pledgee. Or in other words, John is the debtor and his dad's the creditor. Same thing, I think. Cool. That is great. So, okay, so that's our question. And we've talked about our concept. So we still have a little bit more time. Does anybody have any questions? Does anyone have any procedural questions or just questions from the study guide or whatever?
So, can we go over chapter 7, 11, and 13, bankruptcy, to make sure I understand it properly?
Yep, page 270 for
Okay.
the brown book.
So I'll just tell you the way I understand it. So that way you know if I'm right or wrong. So pretty much if you file for Chapter 7 bankruptcy, um, that bankruptcy will cover your debts and pretty much anything that arises before the bankruptcy. And Chapter 11 is intended for a business so they can restructure their debts and keep on performing as a business. And Chapter 13 is kind of the one I was confused on. Is it saying that if you make more than $383,175 that you cannot apply for Chapter 7 and you have to be able to pay creditors $7,475 over 5 years? Like, I was confused.
Hmm.
So, like, if you're rich, you can't really file for Chapter 7. Oh, but I guess you have to have a job. So if you have income, okay, there you go.
Um, I'm kind of confused. So I see what you're saying, but what is the difference between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13, bankruptcy?
From what I'm reading here, I think a Chapter 7 allows you to basically sell off non-exempt items. The money for that goes toward the debts that you owe, and anything else is basically forgiven, right? But in Chapter 13, it's not forgiven, and you have to. It says the debtor files a payment plan. So I guess like if you're not allowed, I don't. I guess I'm confused too. But if my understanding of skimming this real quick is correct, the difference between the two is in Chapter 13 you have to set up a payment plan to repay your debt, and with a Chapter 7 you wouldn't.
You wouldn't have to do that in Chapter 7 because they're liquidating your debts, right? So they're turning them into cash. They're getting rid of it, basically.
As much as possible, yeah. Yeah, like everything, like I'm guessing there's things that are like considered essential for living that you wouldn't have to sell off, but um, anything non-essential then gets sold, applied to the debt, and the rest is just written off or whatever.
All right, cool. Hopefully the videos and will clarify that, but I think that's right. Sounds
Yeah,
right.
it was just a really long chapter. There's a lot.
It was long, really long.
Yeah, and what I don't understand is like I understand where I need to go find all those lists where it's like 1 through 15 like exemptions, but it's like, well, what's it even saying? Like what's important about this list? That was my question that I asked her through email. So hopefully that will be answered tomorrow.
Okay.
Because that was the hardest thing, was just figuring out what it was saying. Hold on, I'm trying to find my study guide. Does anyone else have another question?
So Taylor, I just kind of Googled your question, and it
Mm-hmm.
says Chapter 13 is a reorganization bankruptcy designed for debtors with regular income who can pay back at least a portion of their debts through a repayment plan. If you make too much money, like you were saying, to qualify for Chapter 7, you may have no choice but to file a Chapter 13. So it almost
Okay.
sounds like, a Chapter 11, from what I understood, is kind of like for businesses, allows you to like restructure your debt. And
Mm-hmm.
it kind of sounds almost like Chapter 13 is the same kind of thing for individuals.
Yeah, I can see that. That kind of makes more, yeah, just kind of restructures their debt and they have to They still have to pay for it, but they can fix it.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of what I get out of it, but
Okay,
I,
that makes more sense. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Good job. That was good. Um, do you guys know how the bankruptcy exemptions work? It's the question right underneath Taylor's about the Chapter 11 and 7 and 13 bankruptcy code. Because it gave a list on page 272, and so there was 15 items, and it was talking about how federally that these are the exemptions, but then states can substitute their own for the federal ones. And so I just wanted to know kind of like what a bankruptcy exemption was and like how it works.
You know, that's a really good question.
Here, I'm gonna see what Google says.
So is it saying that, like, so 1 through 15, are those the bankruptcy exceptions?
Yeah, for federal
For federal.
bankruptcy.
So for number 1, it says equity in a home and burial plot up to $22,000. Is that pretty much saying that equity in a home up to $22,000 is exempted?
What I found on the internet says exemptions play an important role in Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Chapter 7 bankruptcy exemptions help you determine what property you get to keep. In Chapter 13, exemptions help you determine how much you'll have to pay to your unsecured creditors, which can mean the difference between a confirmable plan and getting knocked out of Chapter 13. So I guess that makes more sense. So in Chapter 7, the exemptions help you determine what property you get to keep, and Chapter 13 helps you know how much you need to pay the unsecured creditors. So I guess like it just depends on what type of bankruptcy you file for, and that's how the exemptions are used.
Huh.
So that's a little, yeah, that's all that it says. So I guess that would make sense why that section came right after Chapter 11, 7, and 13 is that those exemptions apply to those cases, basically, is what it's saying. So I wasn't sure how they applied, but that makes sense. I guess it's also kind of that whole concept that there's always the exception to the rule. You know, they're like, well, you're filing for bankruptcy, you got to do this, this, and this, but then there's different conditions where you can, I don't know, get something and get something else. I don't know. So cool. Guess that makes a little bit more sense. David, did you have any questions, or Christina?
Let me just check out the study guide again real quick, but I don't think I had anything we haven't addressed already. Yeah, I
Christina.
don't think there's anything out there that I just don't know about, really. So, yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay. Christina, did you have any questions? No? Okay. Well, I think that's everything for today. Good job, guys.
Yay!
Go team.
Yep. Go Group 9.
Good luck on the exam.
Yeah, good luck. Best of luck. Watch those videos.
For sure.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.